I had just stepped off a red-eye flight from Seattle. My bones ached from turbulence, and my throat was sandpaper dry from the recycled cabin air, but I'd done it 100 times before. Land, debrief, change, grab a black coffee from the break room. Routine, safe, comforting, until I opened my inbox. Subject line, urgent, HR meeting, 7:30 a.m. Do not miss no greeting, no context, just a summons. The clock on the wall read 7:22 a.m. I didn't even have time to change out of my uniform. Nathan Granger's office was on the 11th floor, the glass box with the best view of the airstrip. I used to joke that you could see the company's conscience from up there because it never landed. When I walked in, he didn't even glance up, just motioned to the chair like I was a late Uber Eats delivery. "Captain Cole," he said, still typing. "Appreciate you coming in early." "That's never a good sign," I replied, settling into the seat opposite his desk. My palms left sweat marks on my flight slacks. Nathan looked like he'd been printed out of a Silicon Valley brochure. Tight haircut, tight tie, and a Harvard MBA framed behind him like a trophy kill. Everyone knew he hadn't flown anything heavier than a drone, and yet here he was, holding the careers of people like me. People who had flown combat missions and trained generations of commercial pilots in a single keystroke. He finally folded his hands and leaned forward. "Due to restructuring and shifting cost models," he began, "we've had to eliminate several legacy positions." "Legacy," I repeated, slow. "You mean experience?" "I mean," he said crisply, "your role has been absorbed into the new digital training integration program, effective immediately." I stared at him, then out the window behind his smug little face. Flight 712 was taxiing onto the runway. I'd signed off on that captain myself 3 years ago, trained him from simulator to solo. Nathan slid a manila envelope across the desk. "Severance, equipment return, benefits transition. HR will walk you through everything." I didn't open it, just nodded once. "You'll need to return your badge and uniform today," he added, standing like we were done. "And Ethan, your epaulets too. Company policy." I stood, tugging at my uniform jacket out of pure instinct. Not rage, not grief, training. I didn't shake his hand, didn't say a word. But as I turned the handle to leave, I looked back once and said, "Be careful with the systems, Nathan. Not everything can be rebooted after a crash." He smirked. "We'll manage." Ellen from HR was waiting like a specter outside the door. Clipboard, neutral eyes, like I was just another paperclip in the office supply drawer. We walked the length of the hallway in silence. My boots echoed on the polished floor like the ending of something sacred. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Elena Blake. "Is it true? They let you go?" I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? That 2 decades of service could be reduced to a stapled packet and a hallway escort? I changed in the locker room like I was erasing myself. Folded my uniform with the kind of precision you don't forget from your Air Force days. Creases perfect, shirt squared, hat centered. I closed the locker door and paused. A photo taped inside. Me with my first crew at Altura. 5 of them were now senior captains. 2 flew international. All of them had been trained by the guy now being walked out like a trespasser. When I stepped out, Ellen reached for my badge and parking pass. I added the gate key, the epaulets. She took them all like she was collecting overdue library books. "That everything?" I asked. She hesitated, just a flicker, then nodded. I walked out into the parking lot like a man who'd just watched someone else's name go up on his tombstone. I should have gone home. Cracked open a beer. Pretended not to care. But something about that text from Elena, something in her voice even though I couldn't hear it, made me turn the car back around. The pilot lounge on the 3rd floor was unusually quiet. 8 of them were waiting. Elena, Daniel, Mason, Thomas, all in uniform, all tense. "We heard what happened," Mason said, and we're not okay with it. I didn't come here for a group hug, I replied. Elena stepped forward. You need to see something. She opened her iPad and swiped to a maintenance log. Flight 462, 4 days ago. An altimeter discrepancy during takeoff, filed as minor, cleared for service. I frowned. That's not minor, I said. That's B critical, at least. Exactly, she said. And this isn't the original report. She swiped again. A different version. Same flight, same timestamp. But the severity had been downgraded. And the signature? Ross Harding, a technician who'd left the company last month. So who changed it? I asked. She didn't answer, just looked at me like I already knew, and I did. This didn't start with me, I muttered. It started long before today. Thomas leaned against the window. Do you think Nathan's involved? I didn't speak, because I couldn't afford to be wrong, and because deep down, I knew I wasn't. The altimeter data, the altered logs, the silence from upstairs. This wasn't just a firing, it was a cover-up. And I'd just been pushed out so I couldn't see it. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this time from a name I hadn't seen in 2 years. Richard Kane. We need to talk. Privately. I stared at the screen. The founder of Altura, the man who'd built the company from a handful of flight routes into a national carrier. He'd retired when his son, Colin Hartman Jr., took over. But if Richard was texting me now, something big was brewing. I looked around the lounge. 8 pilots, 1 iPad, and a manila envelope in my backpack I hadn't even opened. Someone thought I'd walk away quietly. They were wrong. If you've ever been dismissed after giving your all, type 1. Because some envelopes don't close, they explode. The shock didn't come from Altura's systems. It came from my own brother. I was halfway through breakfast, black coffee, burnt toast, and an unopened manila envelope still sitting on my kitchen counter, when Sean called. Ethan, he began without preamble, did you sign anything when they let you go? Good morning to you too, I muttered. No. Why? He exhaled. I just reviewed a power of attorney transfer you signed 4 years ago, when you joined the Executive Flight Training Board. I blinked. That was for budget approvals. What does it have to do with now? They retroactively appended a rider, Sean said. It gives Altura permission to reassign your curriculum assets, your simulator protocols, training content, instructor briefings, all of it. Even your name's still on the accreditation record. You're saying they're stealing my training program? I'm saying they already have. An hour later, I met Elena and Daniel in a coffee shop near O'Hare. Neutral ground, no Altura logos, no chance of surveillance, unless the espresso machine had ears. Daniel, the maintenance analyst, looked like he hadn't slept in days. Elena, still in her flight uniform, had the kind of posture that only came from someone trying very hard not to unravel in public. Daniel opened his laptop and rotated it toward me. Flight 462, he said. Here's the original log I pulled before it disappeared. The screen displayed a B-critical altimeter fault, filed by Harding with a timestamp and escalation flag. Next to it, a revised version, same flight, same timestamp. But the flag was removed, and the notes scrubbed clean. Who has access to overwrite these? I asked. Only senior systems admins, or someone with override clearance through the new software, Triaxis Suite. Didn't Nathan push that through last quarter? Elena asked. Daniel nodded. With minimal IT review, I leaned back in my chair. The ceiling fan above us creaked with every rotation. Somewhere behind the counter, a barista was grinding beans too loudly. They were making noise. We were finding silence. Elena pulled a drive from her coat pocket. This is what I could clone before I got locked out. I connected it to my own laptop, scanning the files. Not just Flight 462. 6 more aircraft had incident reports, most of them minor, but all had metadata mismatches. Edits with no user attribution, logged during system maintenance windows. Someone's using ghost admin sessions, I muttered. Or spoofed logins, Daniel added. Either way, the audit trail's being erased. Why now? Elena asked. Why risk this? I didn't answer at first. My mind had already jumped ahead. The corporate side of Altura had been bleeding money since the Granger administration took over. But instead of layoffs, they'd turned to optimization, streamlining, automating, outsourcing. Only now it wasn't just about money, it was about control. You know that oversight deal with the FAA, I said? The one that lets Altura self-certify maintenance with internal QA? Elena's eyes widened. They're rigging the reports to stay in compliance? Daniel nodded. It's smart, until someone dies. I reached for my phone, a message from Mary, my sister. Mom's condition worsened. Doctor says she needs round-the-clock care. I'm moving forward with the assisted living plan. Signed the papers this morning. I stared at the message. No discussion, no consent, just like Altura. It hit me all at once. How power was being redefined in both places, at work and at home. Quiet signatures, misused trust, data manipulated to look clean, truth buried because it was inconvenient. I closed the phone and stood. Get me everything, I told Daniel. Every log, every access record, every overwritten line. He hesitated. That's gonna raise flags. Then make it look accidental. I'm in, Elena said, her voice low but sharp. Where do we meet next? Somewhere they won't think to look. Later that afternoon, we gathered again, this time in the basement of a retired simulator facility I used to teach in. The smell of dust and rubberized cables filled the air. Mason joined us, along with two new faces, Kayla, a junior flight tech, and Marcus, a data security analyst. Marcus laid out a network diagram on the old whiteboard. This is how they're doing it, he said. Triaxis has a background script, encrypted, but it pushes remote patches that can rewrite logs, even past events. Can we track it? I asked. Only if we catch it live. We'll need to install a passive listener, Kayla said, and that means inside the training review room where Nathan holds his system briefings. Everyone turned to Elena. I still have the keycard, she said. Just as we finalized our plan, a knock rattled the metal door. We all froze. Then it opened slowly. Nick, the hangar tech, stepped in. Sweat soaked his collar. I wasn't followed, he said, but I don't have much time. He dropped a flash drive on the table. They're deleting logs wholesale now, not rewriting, erasing, entire blocks. I backed up what I could, off-site, but this is from yesterday. I plugged it in. It was worse than I thought. Flight 603 had reported dual hydraulic inconsistencies, both logs gone. The aircraft had flown twice since then. I gripped the edge of the table. This isn't about covering mistakes anymore. They're gambling with lives. Nick looked down. And the ones making those bets? They're not in the cockpit. As we packed up, Kayla handed me a note. You're going to get a call, she said quietly, from someone offering to reassign you to another division, probably with incentives. Don't take it. Why? Because I turned it down last week, and they've been watching me ever since. I slid the note into my jacket. Thanks. As I walked out of that basement into the cold Chicago night, a voice in my head whispered, they thought I'd stay grounded. They forgot who taught them to fly. If you've ever watched the numbers lie while people suffered, type 2, because when we line up, the truth finally takes off. The message hit my inbox at 4:52 a.m., subject line all caps. Flight 2294. Crew declines readiness. Pilot in command refuses takeoff. I blinked twice to be sure I read it right. Mason Clark, one of ours. His captain's report attached, simple and precise. Due to unresolved maintenance concerns and discrepancies in Flight 2294's hydraulic log, I am exercising my right under FAA Reg E 121-537 to delay departure until further review. I exhaled. Not relief. Recognition. The stand-down had begun, and there was no taking it back. By 7 a.m., I was back at the cafe on Route 43, the same corner booth where this all started. My laptop open, burner phone active, drive tucked under my jacket. Kayla joined first, then Thomas, then Elena. No uniforms, just purpose. We're up to 4 refusals, Elena said. Dallas, Denver, Tampa, and Raleigh. They using the same language? I asked. She nodded. Safety protocol, all within legal rights. No mutiny, no strike, just accountability. Daniel arrived last, phone in hand, eyes wide. You're going to want to see this. He rotated the screen toward me. A screenshot of Altura's internal flight board, half a dozen flights blinking red, delayed, canceled, grounded, no official memo, no union action. But word had spread. Pilots were checking logs, comparing reports, and refusing to fly. Are we ready for fallout? I asked. We're not crashing planes, Thomas said. We're preventing one. Back at the old training facility, we turned on the hidden camera Elena had installed in the instructor's console. Nathan's voice filled the room through the feed. We'll run quarterly optimization reviews in parallel with tri-axis syncs, he said, speaking to 2 junior engineers. And if maintenance anomalies hit below threshold, auto clearance will flag for continuation. Even if a component had failed recently? One of them asked. Nathan didn't flinch. The software's predictive. Don't second-guess the algorithm. Our job is to keep the logbooks aligned with operational flow. My jaw tightened. He wasn't just tolerating data manipulation, he was training it. We needed leverage. So I made the call I'd been saving. Rachel Devine, the investigative reporter who'd brought down Midwest Air Cargo's falsified cargo weight scandal in 2016. The one who didn't flinch when threats came, only wrote harder. She picked up on the first ring. You've got something worth my inbox, Captain? I've got everything, I said. Logs, video, witnesses, internal procedures, even admin override source code. I paused. But I'm not looking for headlines, yet. I need insurance. Rachel was silent for a beat. You want a sealed vault? Yes. And if I disappear, I want every editor on your desk to know why. She chuckled. Send it encrypted. I'll build a dead man timer. You've got my word. Later that afternoon, Kayla returned with news. Nathan's pulled all team meetings for the week, she said, and security just installed access logs on the sim building. Someone's nervous, Mason muttered. Not just nervous, I said. They're bracing. We couldn't just hold the line. We had to force their hand. So we drafted a memo, carefully worded, internally distributed, anonymously signed. Due to ongoing discrepancies between reported and observed maintenance status across multiple aircraft, certain crew members will continue to exercise flight refusal until conditions meet FAA-verified compliance standards. Within 6 hours, it had over 70 digital signatures, mostly pilots, some mechanics, even 2 dispatchers. Altura's executive board didn't respond publicly, but the pressure was cracking. That night, I got a text from Mary. You made Mom proud, you know. I never said that out loud, but she always knew you stood for something. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it. Because standing for something doesn't always mean being proud. Sometimes it just means not sitting down when you're told to. The next morning, I received a call from an unlisted number. Captain Cole, the voice said, crisp, corporate. Nathan would like to meet with you. Briefing room 6B this afternoon. I'm not employed by Altura. There are concerns we'd like to address. Senior leadership will be present. I waited a beat. Fine. But I'm not coming alone. The meeting room smelled like fresh lemons and forced civility. Nathan stood by the glass wall, arms folded, Next to him, Colin Hartman Jr., Altura's CEO, silver tie, zero warmth. "You've made your point," Colin said flatly. "The delays, the emails, the internal drama." "This isn't drama," I replied. "It's a safety stand-down." Nathan stepped in. "You're not even an employee anymore. You don't speak for the company." "No," I said. "I speak for the people who aren't afraid to say no. The ones who remember what the logs used to mean before they were scrubbed." Colin narrowed his eyes. "What do you want? Your job back? A settlement?" I looked him dead in the eye. "I want the data cleaned, the logs restored, and the person who authorized ghost overrides held accountable." No one moved. The silence rang louder than any jet engine. Then, the door opened. 2 FAA inspectors stepped in. Badges ready, clipboards out. "We're here for a surprise audit," one said. "Full access to flight ops and maintenance systems." Nathan turned pale. Colin swore under his breath and stormed out. I stayed exactly where I was, because we were just getting started. If you've ever had to fight for what should have already been protected, type 3. Because when the system forgets safety, someone has to remember. 3 weeks after the FAA walked through Altura's glass doors like federal ghosts with clipboards, I received another email. Subject line: Potential leadership opportunity. Confidential. The sender: Marcus Dwight, the newly appointed chairman of the board. Attached was a calendar invite. No subject. Just one line in the email body. "We believe there's still a future for you at Altura. Let's talk." I didn't open the attachment. Didn't need to. Because by then I was already standing on the tarmac of something entirely new. The hangars at Apex Jet's training division still smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Rows of VR simulators hummed silently behind glass, surrounded by polished chrome chairs and briefing tables that hadn't yet been stained by resignation or compromise. I walked into the lobby wearing no uniform, no epaulets, just a charcoal jacket and a coffee that wasn't from a vending machine. Vincent Huang, Apex Jet's CEO, met me at the main hall. "You're early," he said, smiling. "I'm done waiting," I replied. He handed me a single-page contract. No fine print, no legal minefield. Just build it the right way, your way, no compromises. I signed without hesitation. At 9:00 a.m., sharp, a fleet of black sedans pulled into the lot. Doors opened. 32 pilots stepped out, some in civilian clothes, some still carrying the flight bags they'd once used at Altura. Elena was the first through the doors. "You're not going to cry, are you?" she teased. "Only if the espresso machine's broken," I replied. She looked around the spotless training hall and exhaled slowly. This is what it should have been all along." "It still can be," I said. "But it won't be about titles anymore. It'll be about truth." Inside, we ran a full onboarding, briefing rooms, schedule boards, checklists. Not a single optimization memo, no ghost logins, just transparency and people who still gave a damn. Halfway through our orientation, my phone rang. Unknown number, Chicago area code. I stepped outside. The air smelled like metal and rain. "Captain Cole?" the voice asked. "Yes." "This is Marcus Dwight. I'm the new chairman at Altura. I assume you've seen the changes." "You mean the forced resignations? The audits? The fact that Nathan's LinkedIn now says strategic consultant?" A pause. "We'd like to invite you back. Leadership, autonomy, rebuild it from the inside." I let the silence stretch just long enough for the wind to whistle through it. "You think legacy is something you can lease," I said, "but it was never yours to borrow." "Ethan, I already took my future," I cut in, "and I'm not selling it back." Then I hung up. Back inside, the new recruits were gathering in the VR lab. Vincent stood beside me, nodding toward the group. "You think Altura will recover?" he asked. I shrugged. "Maybe, but not with shortcuts. Not with people who think Safety is a line item and training is an upload. He smiled faintly. Then we keep going. That evening, I stood in the observation room alone, watching the day's final simulation replay. One of the newer pilots had missed a crosswind response cue, but instead of brushing past it, she'd called it out herself, owned it, asked to run the sequence again. That used to be what made someone a good pilot. Now it made someone a rare one. I walked back down the hallway, passing the wall where we'd started hanging crew photos. I added a new one, our team, standing in front of the Apex logo. Below it I wrote, "Integrity doesn't retire. It just finds a new gate." At 10:42 p.m., I got one more message. From Mary. "Mom's stable now. They're talking rehab, not hospice. And she wants to talk. Just you." I stared at the screen for a long moment, heart pinched between guilt and surprise. Sometimes legacies aren't inherited. They're reclaimed. A week later, I received a package. No sender listed. Just a sleek black envelope, sealed. Inside was a single USB drive and a note. "Thought you might want to know. Triaxis Suite has contracts at 3 other carriers. You're not done yet. K." I turned the drive over in my hand. Whatever piece I thought I'd found. It wasn't the kind that stayed idle, not with other skies at stake. I walked out onto the tarmac one more time that night. The wind was cold. The lights from the hangars behind me cast long shadows across the runway. But the direction I was heading didn't need runway lights. Just clarity, and people willing to fly straight, no matter who's watching. If you believe legacies aren't handed down, they're built every day in silence and conviction, Type 4, because the best things we leave behind were never meant to be leased. They were meant to last.